I call the honourable member David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I think it's very sad from the last speech from the New Zealand First Party that they try and take advantage of our young people in this country and say that the government is making them feel sad about having to repay a debt. And I think that's very sad that New Zealand First Party has to stoop to those levels, but that's traditional for that party, and so I don't think that it's that unusual in this House. But the bad thing in this debate is actually the Green Party. You know, the Green Party is a party that goes onto all these campuses and says that it represents young people, and it puts out all those images of dealing with environmental issues, which they don't actually really care about. And then when they actually they look at the facts, they won't represent the facts as they are. They won't say it as it is, and they create a lot of disharmony in our country, and that's a very sad thing. And when you look at the facts, New Zealand spends more on tertiary education than Australia does. New Zealand spends more on tertiary education than Australia does. Oh, it's because of what? We spend more than they do as a percentage of GDP. And the reason we spend more than they do, and the other thing is, if you look at the student support part of our government expenditure on tertiary education, it is far, far in excess of what the Australians spend. So what actually happens is in New Zealand, we spend more money on tertiary education, but a higher percentage of that goes in student support. Doesn't go to the institutions, it goes to student support, and that's the student loan scheme. This is a scheme that's been around for a number of years now, and most students will say that, well, we don't want to lose it, and that's rightfully their case because it's something they take advantage of. But there is a problem in that, because if New Zealand continues to spend more money on tertiary education and a higher percentage of that goes in student support, then what actually happens is the money that's spent on the institutions, the universities and the politics and such like, is actually lower than what is spent in Australia. In New Zealand, we spend less on our institutions than they do in Australia, and that's because we spend so much more on student support. And that is a shame, because that can actually mean that our institutions aren't funded to the level that they should be. And that is the difference that we are looking to resurrect, to try and find a solution for through the changes in the student support scheme. We want to make sure that there's that balance there so those institutions get that funding so that they are competitive. And I want those students in New Zealand to listen to the Green Party, because the Green Party wants to give you money to live for today, but they don't want the ticket that you're going to get to mean much in the future. And that's the issue. The National Party wants that ticket that you're going to get to actually mean something. We want to give those institutions the ability to deliver those tickets to the future so that those young people get the income-earning potential that they strive for in going to tertiary education. That's the difference between these two political parties. That's the truth of the matter. That's what the Green Party needs to actually go out there and say. It's too much for the New Zealand First Party to understand, because they have to wait for their leader to understand before they can say anything. And the Labor Party will be looking at it and be going, oh, this means that we need to give more money to tertiary institutions. Well, that would be lovely, and we need to be able to do that over time, and that will happen, you know, as New Zealand gets richer and we deal with our financial issues. But at this time, this is the best we can do. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, I take a short call.